So you may remember that about 6 weeks ago, when The Last of Us Season 2 first started, I put the review of the first episode on this channel and said that going forward, episodes 2 till 6 will be on my TikTok. I'm quite happy with my success on that series over on TikTok. But with that being said, one thing that stood out to me was that when I reviewed one of the episodes, I believe it was around episode 3 or 4, someone commented on my TikTok, one of the TikToks, and said, I think you're being too harsh, and look at the success that shows like The Walking Dead had, and people regard that as being one of the best shows of all time. Then compare that show to The Last of Us, what we got in season 1 and season 2. And they said, all right, maybe season 2 isn't as good as the first one, but broadly, it's still better than the majority of TV out there. Now, with that being said, I don't believe that it's possible to look at season 2 and go, oh, this is a great season of TV. You may have enjoyed it. You may have thought that it was philosophically interesting. You may have got something out of it that you thought was worthwhile. But let's be honest, if you're putting this on a scale out of 10, this doesn't go past 8, and I would struggle to understand why anyone will put it as an 8 out of 10, when I think personally this season is probably like a 3 or 4 out of 10. I believe that at points this is barely cohesive. The reason why I bring up that TikTok comment is because, yes, the first season of the show might be excellent, and yes, the second season may not be as bad as the worst seasons of TV that you've ever seen. I've recently watched half of the first season of that show, 911, and I'm genuinely staggered at the ability of people to watch that show for 8 seasons. It's all right. It's got some moments, but writ large, it's downright, it's terrible, and I struggle to not laugh in some of the show's most serious moments. I would not, in any realm, place the 2 games and the first season of the TV show of The Last of Us on the scale of 911 or A Criminal Minds or The Walking Dead. That's not saying that you can't watch those shows, enjoy those shows, but I felt like we were pretty firmly living in a reality where we could all acknowledge that none of those shows were heralded as the best of all time. None of those shows were seen as prestigious. None of those shows were ever put on the same level as A Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and now The Last of Us, at least with the first season. So when I come out and I criticize, oh, the tone is off, the writing is off, the dialogue is terrible, the acting doesn't make sense, why haven't you changed some of the cast? When I criticize those decisions and people go, oh, you're being too harsh, am I being too harsh because the show is still better than The Walking Dead? That may be true, but look at it from my perspective, which is that first season is undeniably a great season of TV. And to some people, it's one of the best seasons of TV ever. When the first season is that good, should the second season not be judged to the same scale? And when it doesn't reach it, and it is not even an iota away from it, and it is one of, in my opinion, the worst seasons of TV, should I not judge it on that same scale? Why would I apply a scale of, oh, general TV? Why would I look at this show as, oh, well, it's better than The Walking Dead? Why would I apply it to that scale? We've already established with the first season that this is better than that. The all-encompassing theme of this opening, of this introduction is, this season, almost in my opinion, spoils the first season because it changes so much, and in my opinion, it actually changes some of the provenance of the game and the first season, where some of the decisions that they explain in this season of, oh, why did Joel do that at the end of the game, of the first game? Some of it in this TV show, I'm actually going, I actually think that's like downright a terrible decision what you've made. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's not just in the confines of the season. It's going to change what has to happen in seasons 3 and 4. Craig Mazin, the creator of the show, has now announced that they will need a 4th season of the show to finish the second game. So we're locked into the show for at least another 2 years, and given production timescales, that probably looks at more like 4 years, if anything. I think in many respects, this show is, like, this season of The Last of Us is downright disrespectful, in my opinion, to the game and the TV show. I'll never say it's disrespectful to me. I'm a fan of it. I don't need to be respected or disrespected. As long as, the writers and the actors aren't coming out and going, the audience are dumb and they don't understand what they're talking about. There's a possibility that might happen at some point. I don't know. It might have already happened and I just haven't seen it. A show just being bad could never be disrespectful to me. But the properties that this season is based on, it is disrespectful to, because it changes it so fundamentally and it misunderstands what the game is about. I struggle with anyone that really is watching this and going, yeah, this is a good season of TV. I don't understand how you could view it as such. Nevertheless, if that's your opinion, then by all means, go for it. As I will explain as we get into the writing and the acting of this show, there is so much fundamentally wrong and broken with this season of TV. I cannot view anything that the show does originally as worthwhile. I should mention where this isn't going to be a spoiler-free review. This is going to have spoilers, so if you're worried about that, if you haven't watched it, if you haven't finished it, don't watch this review. So the premise of this second season is that following the events at the Salt Lake City hospital, Joel has taken Ellie out of the hospital. He's killed all the fireflies, or at least what he believes to be all of the fireflies. And as we establish in the opening scene of the show, there are some fireflies remaining, about 4 or 5, who believe that what Joel has done is in the wrong, both for the moral reasons and the repercussions of there now being no cure to save the world. And then also they have lost so many loved ones and friends. Led by Kaitlyn Dever's Abby, set out on a revenge mission to find Joel and to bring him down and to make him answer for his actions. The only significant difference in this show from the game in this premise is that Abby establishes in the second episode she's not doing this for revenge. She's doing this for justice. And I believe that is a significant difference. Abby in the game is hate-filled. She doesn't project that on, Tommy and Jesse, and Dina and Ellie. She is tunnel-visioned on Joel and no one else. She wants to kill Joel, and she does in the second episode of the show and early on in the game. After that, she believes that her mission in this regard is done and that she can now move on. As a result of Abby, Owen, Mel, Nora, and Manny's actions, Ellie and Dina, pursued by Tommy and Jesse, travel to Seattle, where they look for Abby and her friends to take down them in what they perceive as their own justice. Although the show goes on to explain and explore the fact that this isn't justice, it's thinly veiled revenge under the guise of justice. Me, personally, I'm fine with the premise broadly because, as I say, it doesn't veer too much from the game. Where the show excels in season 2 is when it does not veer off from what the game already has established. Where the show struggles is when it tries to come up with its own material and where it changes characters, in my opinion, in fundamental ways. One of those ways being with Dina, who in the game is Jewish and gives a monologue about the Holocaust and the effect that it has on Jews.
Of a believer.
Nah, but I like coming from a long line of survivors.
You mean after Outbreak Day?
That, and the Inquisition, and the Holocaust. My family always made it out alive. All about food. And celebrating when getting annihilated by our enemies. I like coming from a long line of survivors.
In the TV show, that is taken out, in my opinion, primarily because they just didn't want the flack and the heat from the Israel-Palestine conflict situation. That's an understandable motive for removing it, but they don't then replace it with anything else. They don't, make her, Armenian and talk about the genocide of Armenians by the Ottoman Empire. They don't go into African and relating her to one of the many genocides that has gone on in that content. They don't make her Bosnian and talk about the effect that Yugoslavia had on the Bosnian people. There's nothing like that. They don't replace it. She just becomes slightly more bland, in my opinion. Broadly, I don't have an issue with the premise. The idea that both sides are out for justice and not revenge, I feel like is pretty stupid. In the game, it's very upfront that both sides are interested in revenge. This is their own personal mission, and it is their own personal missions that put other people in harm's way. The change from the focus on revenge to justice, or at least the perceived change, is a thinly veiled attempt for the show to go, oh, there is no justice here, it's only revenge, and revenge will only bring more death on your own side and their side. I understand this, I get what it's going for, but again, it just feels like very wafer thin, and it's very obvious from even the first episode that Abby is not interested in justice. She's interested in revenge. From the second and third episode, it's very clear that Ellie isn't interested in justice. She's interested in revenge. And that is very obvious from the first season of the show. Ellie isn't a person who is interested in rules, law, and order. She's interested in revenge, emotion. She exists outside of the confines of the Jackson community. And that is almost by design, that is by choice. She chooses to live outside of it because she doesn't believe that community can exist in the way that it existed in the pre-apocalypse society. Now, that idea of, oh, we're pursuing justice and not revenge, yes, it is the show's attempt at having this philosophical argument of there is no justice, there is just revenge that will guide you down a darker path. But that isn't actually that philosophically deep in the same way that the game and the show is. And it, in my opinion, is just a waste of time. It would just be much more interesting, in my opinion, to watch Ellie and Abby's all-encompassing revenge quest that takes everything from them on either side. The sort of justice mission is hollow, and we understand it immediately that that is not what the show is about. And I just think it's a waste of time, in my opinion, and it's a waste of the premise. But, as I say, writ large, the premise is broadly the same. And the show, because it doesn't veer off that strongly, I don't have an issue with the premise. Where the show does lack in this regard is the writing. So the writing, in my opinion, in this season of the show is genuinely horrific and is arguably one of the worst written seasons of a show I've ever watched. Now, I should preface this by saying I'm not a big TV fan. I watch some TV purely as sort of a time filler. I watch it with breakfast, but it's not something that I'm like all engrossed in. I don't know the prestige TV shows year in, year out. With that being said, I understand when I'm watching a show that is written for TV and understands the confines of TV and isn't attempting to exist outside of it. So I'm watching Criminal Minds right now, and that is a perfectly written show for 40 to 50 minute slots. It's not attempting to break out of that. It's just attempting to tell a satisfying narrative within 45 minutes that has some sort of overarching big picture narrative. It's not The Sopranos. It's not The Walking Dead, I guess. It's not Breaking Bad. And it understands that. With this season of The Last of Us, it is attempting to be prestigious, and it fails in every regard. The most blatant one, in my opinion, is in, I believe it is the 5th episode, when Ellie and Dina are attempting to reach the hospital. Ellie has already learned that Dina is pregnant, and rather than just say, you're pregnant, you need to stay at the theatre, you can't come with me, it's too dangerous, she just fucking takes her with her. What are you doing? This is a pregnant woman. I don't care if Dina goes, no, we do it together. Fucking lock her up. Tie her down in the theatre. This isn't a decision that she just gets to make for her and Ellie. There is an unborn child here to think of that can't think for itself. And because you two want to go on this revenge mission, you just throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's dumb. And it is such a disregard for life when the show is trying to tell me that all life is sacred and we should do our best to protect it. That's dumb. And you know it's dumb. And you know it's dumb because Ellie, halfway through traveling there, goes, oh, we can turn back if we want to. We can go back home to Jackson. And then they just carry on anyways. What is this? And this is only then made worse by them being in a building where they know they're surrounded by WLF. They know they're in enemy territory. And they take a moment to tell each other that they love each other. I mean, you can't write something that laughably bad. And I believe, honestly, I think I laughed when that was a couple of weeks ago. I think I laughed when that scene happened because I was like, come on, what are we doing here? This would not happen in the game. This would not happen in any other prestigious TV show because they would understand the characters who exist in this world would be smart enough to go, if I love you, would not spend time, waste time on telling you I love you. I would spend my time on making sure you survive by getting us out of this situation. That, by the way, I put myself in. Ellie put them in that situation. She didn't have to. She chose to. And now we're going to just sit around and make I love yous. Are we being ridiculous? Oh, and by the way, they're cracking jokes in that scene as well. It's a ridiculous concept. This, writ large, is one of my main issues with the show. It's one of my main issues with the writing, which is that the show is tonally all over the place. It is inconsistent. It has no idea what it's going for. The reason why I believe that it's tonally all over the place is because if you thought Craig Mazin's last TV show, Chernobyl, was dark, and then The Last of Us Season 1 is even darker, The Last of Us Season 2 is meant to be even darker. And for some reason, he went, oh no, audiences can't handle that. We've never had dark TV shows. Audiences can't handle that. We're going to have to lighten it. We're going to have to introduce, a knock-knock joke here, a why did the chicken cross the road sort of joke. I genuinely at points was questioning, has Joel even died at this point? Am I watching some sort of weird multiverse TV show where this is actually a different world and this is a different Ellie? Because she doesn't react, she doesn't act like a character grieving her dad. It's a ridiculous tone set for this season of the show. It has no idea what it's doing. And to be honest, it's quite genuinely like a case of dumbing it down for the lowest common denominator that is going to watch this show, that can't comprehend how a world like this could be this dark. And it's genuinely treats the audience like we're stupid, which again, I am not saying it's disrespectful, but like, come on, like, we're not idiots here. Treat us with an ounce at least of respect, which is that understanding after 25 years of an apocalypse, it is going to be this dark. It is going to be this bad. And no, instead, we're still cracking jokes when we're surrounded by enemies. And it's totally, as I said, it's totally inconsistent. The writing is terrible. I have no idea what it's actually going for. There is at no point a scene where it's like, all right, we're cracking jokes, and then the next scene is like actually Ellie is masking her PTSD and trauma with those jokes. That doesn't happen. There's no point where we're actually seeing anything like that, and it just really feels like a waste of my time ultimately. One of the things that I have an issue with this show is games have long been lambasted for they're not the right art form for telling grand narratives. And you can believe that. You can believe that The Last of Us are imperfect games and, maybe the story isn't great, whatever. Okay, expand on it now. Show me what The Last of Us would look like if it's a great show, if it's a great story. You have the medium now to do it. And instead, no. Like, we just get whatever this show is. And I almost, in some way, feel bad for the actors, particularly Bella Ramsey, because she is getting a lot of hate for this show and for this season. I will say that if you become the lead of a main show, your pay increases, your stature increases, and with it, if the show is praised, you get the majority of the praise. If the show is lambasted, you get the majority of the negative criticism. So she kind of has to just learn how to take the punches with this, because ultimately she wanted to be on this show. Good luck. Deal with it. I can't in any way feel particularly bad for her when I don't think she's gotten better as the show has gone on. If anything, I think she's gotten worse. And one of the main reasons for that, why I say that I feel bad for her, is that yes, the acting might not be great, but look at the dialogue that she is working with. It's terrible. Why are we having these scenes where it's 5 minutes of jokes in an apocalypse? Why, when Dina tells Ellie, "Oh yeah, I'm pregnant," is Ellie just like, "Oh great, get in. We're in Seattle. We have no food, no resources. We're gonna have to travel all the way back to Jackson, Wyoming, from Seattle in Washington, which is a long fucking distance. We have nothing on us, and now we are gonna have to take it extra slow, extra careful because you have a child in you." How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense from a writing standpoint? How does any of the dialogue that I mentioned make any sense? So we can sit here and criticize Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced for not being great in this show. I don't think either of them are particularly stalwart acting-wise in this season. But with that being said, who thought it was a good idea to give two actors who I believe are, when you combine their ages, I believe are less than 45 together. Who thought that it was a good idea to take Pedro Pascal out of the ensemble, which was necessary because that is canonically correct, and then not replace him? Not go and find another thread for you to pull on in every episode so that it's not just Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced who are having to support this show and put the show on their backs at times. There are entire episodes where it is basically just them two. Who thought that was a good idea? They clearly are too young to carry a prestigious HBO show. Would we have expected an entire season of Game of Thrones to just be given to Bran Stark when he's 15? Would we have expected that? Would we have expected that when he was 20? No, because there were great actors, Charles Dance, Kit Harington, Richard Madden, all these great actors, Lena Headey, Sean Bean, great actors coming out the wazoo who were able to support the younger actors that were coming through and give them advice. And if they're not having a great scene, go, "Oh, actually, whilst we're here, maybe try doing this, maybe try doing that." There's no one here for that. There's no one here when Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced are maybe having a rough time of it and not having a great scene. There isn't enough scenes and continuous supporting roles from the big name actors who are brought in essentially as one-offs at times. Maybe with the majority of them, they're in 2 episodes. And we're talking about great TV actors, some great movie actors, and the majority of them are just like, yeah, they're kind of here. I think Jeffrey Wright is in this for a max of like 10 minutes this season. He's definitely the best actor in the show, and he gives the best performances out of everyone. And he's just sort of shuffled to the side. And it's like, all right, fair enough. Maybe he's going to be more present in the second season, or in the third season, sorry. Maybe he's going to be more present in the third season. Why did you not pull on the Jesse and Tommy thread more? Why was there not more of them? Young Mazino and Gabriel Luna are both better actors than Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced. Why was there no decision of that? And you can't use the argument of, "Oh, well, it didn't happen in the game," because there are plenty of things that you do in this season that weren't in the game. And if it's a question of, "Oh, well, we didn't think Gabriel Luna was particularly a big enough actor or a good enough actor for him to lead the show," one, that wouldn't make sense because then Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced wouldn't be good enough to lead it because he's better than them. And 2, if he wasn't good enough, change the actor. Other HBO shows have done this, namely Game of Thrones. Don't give me that bullshit. Change the actors if you need them to lead the season and you don't think they're good enough. There are other actors out there that you could have gone and got to play Tommy. Joel Kinnaman looks like Tommy. You could have got him. Charlie Hunnam, you could have got him. Both actors who look the part, are probably about the right age, have worked in TV, and are better actors than pretty much everyone in this show. So that doesn't work. And then that brings me on to the other argument that people are having about this, which is, "Oh, Bella Ramsey is good enough for this. Bella Ramsey isn't good enough for this." And I'm not going to get into this too much because I don't want this to be taken as, "Oh, we're being political on this channel now." But let's be honest. She's not good enough to lead this show. And I can guarantee you now, the Kaitlyn Dever season, which is going to be season 3, I would bet that Ellie isn't in that season anywhere near as much. Maybe in 1 or 2 episodes, the first episode and the last one. I can guarantee you Kaitlyn Dever will be better. She's been a movie actress for years. She's done harrowing, traumatic TV before. She was in that show Unforgivable. She's been in big movies like Booksmart. She's been around the block. She's been doing this a lot better. And I will make this prediction a year, 18 months in advance. Season 3 will be miles better than season 2. I would put money on it. Guaranteed. Because the actors will be better. Kaitlyn Dever is a better actor than Bella Ramsey. Jeffrey Wright is a better actor than Pedro Pascal. And I still would have liked to see Pedro Pascal more in this season by just having the flashback episode more paced out. And this is my issue, is that 6th episode is rushed. And that's because you put 5 years of flashbacks into 1 episode before the final episode. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the tone, I don't understand the pace, I don't understand the writing, and I don't understand the acting. What is going on here? It's all over the place. There's 5 actors in this show, in this season, that I think should have been used more. Pedro Pascal, Jeffrey Wright, Young Mazino, Gabrielle Luna, and Hettian Park. They're given cameos at best. And it's not enough to support Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced. And this is the issue that I'm having with these online discussions about, oh, Bella Ramsey, she's fucking ugly. Oh, Bella Ramsey, she's not a good enough actress to do this. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, or should be, why was there no support given to these actors when it was clear from season 1 that the reason why Bella Ramsey was so good was because she had someone with her every episode, every step of the way. Who thought this was a good idea? And I know I've just said, and this might be a slight contradiction, I know I've just said that season 3 will be better. I'm not that confident. I think it'll be miles better. But that's not saying like, 10 out of 10. I'm just saying it'll probably be like a 6 out of 10 because there will at least be a competent actor in every episode that I believe can carry a season of a show because she's done it before. So this was more of a rant than I intended it to. I'm going to edit some of this out, but not much of it. I didn't intend this to be as much of a rant as I did. I'm not even going to add my graphics of like, the premise and, classical music in. This is a nearly 40-minute rant about this show. I didn't intend it to be that way. I've gotten progressively angry about this season of the show because I genuinely think it's disrespectful to the original game. What has gone on here? It's all over the place. It's like no one who writ the second season played the game. And I don't understand how that's possible. Especially when the director of episodes 6 and 7 wrote the game, directed the game, wrote and directed the first game. Neil Druckmann. Where is he? So, all over the place. Don't watch this. I mean, if you're here, if you've made it this far, you probably already have watched this. All over the place. Can't recommend this less. I'm seriously worried about the future of this show. I think it's going to have 5 seasons because Craig Mazin has already said it's going to need season 3 and 4. I think there's going to be a 3rd game, which would warrant a 5th season, if not a 6th season, probably. So I needed to get this out of my system, which is why this has just turned into a rant essentially, because I can't deal with this. It's such a massive fall off for a show. Like the way that people talk about Game of Thrones, that final season, and even the penultimate season, what was it, season 7 and season 8, I think. The way that people talk about those 2 final seasons, and particularly the last one, I think in some regard is kind of harsh because yes, they're bad, but they, in my opinion, have the outline of the correct way that show should have ended. This, I just don't understand what the impetus was for all the changes. I'm not an idiot. The audience aren't idiots. Why would you make this a laugh, happy-go-lucky fucking show? We don't need that. So, yeah, personally, I think that this season is worse than that final season of Game of Thrones. And I didn't fucking like that one whatsoever, but I hate this. There is no outline for a good season of TV in this season. It's downright, like, unwatchable, in my opinion, at points. And I genuinely found myself, like, audibly wanting it to be finished. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to just end this, like, unceremoniously, because I will just keep going. Writing bad, premise fine because it's the same one as the game, acting all over the place. I have serious questions about Craig Mazin going forward as the future of this show. It probably needs some more direction from Neil Druckmann, although again, I'm questioning why he wasn't more involved in the production of this show. It seemed like he only had the say-so over episodes 6 and 7, but given how protective he is over the property, I don't know why he let it go for 5 episodes. I don't know. I'm done with this season. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't even want to talk about this show socially. It's that bad. But thank you for watching. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe. Peace.